Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining Painting with Picasso's Grapevine. My name is Leanna Hahn, and I will be your host and teacher for today. Usually we kind of take a look at a lot of flower paintings, a lot of landscapes, but today we're going to have a little fun with this turtle time. So we've named him Turtle Toes, and he's kind of cute. So we haven't done any kids painting today, so we're going to take a shot at this one. Kind of lighthearted, kind of fun. As always, we kind of start off our show with kind of talking about our supplies that we will need. Today we are going to be working with 3 paint brushes. We have a number 6, we have a number 4, and we have a number 1. So lots of round brushes. As well, we always have with us our cup of water for washing off our paint brushes and our dab rag for making sure we dab off our water. We are always using acrylic paint. Today we have a beautiful array of lots of brilliant, vibrant colors. So lots of blues, lots of aquas. So we are working with, we have cobalt, we have aqua, we have white, burnt umber, we have olive green, we have phthalo blue, and we have black. So to get kind of started and lay out your supplies, what I've done is I've put a drop of each of the main colors here. So I've got our aquas and our blues and our greens, and I put a dab of white right next to them because we're going to do a lot of mixing in today's painting. So let's take a look at what we're kind of starting with here. So again, we've got this cute little turtle, and he's got a lot of swirls in the background. So that's kind of the water. So we're going to work on doing a lot of swirls with the background in the blues and the aquas. And then we're going to get into his skin here, which is kind of an olive green, and then his shell, which is kind of a combination of the white and the burnt umber. So to kick this off, what I've done is I've kind of prepared in advance with a pre-sketch. And because the structure is very specific, I have actually worked to put a little bit of a pre-sketch in using, I was going to try to keep these together, but maybe not. We'll just kind of put this to the side. I've done a pre-sketch using a black magic marker, well actually an exact marker, so it doesn't wash off. So it kind of helps me keep my basis of where I'm kind of working in the background. And again, we always start with the background. We take a look and say, hey, where's our foreground, where's our background? Clearly, the turtle is our foreground, and the water's going to be our background. So to start this off, let's go ahead, grab our largest number 6 brush. Let's dab it in the water and kind of dab it off in our dab rag, kind of open up those pores, get it moist. And we're going to start with one of our swirls here. Now you can't go wrong. If you want to start in the aqua swirls or one of the 2 blue swirls, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to start with the cobalt blue and mix it in with a little bit of white. And we're going to put some big swirls here. Make sure we're tight in here. So we're just going to kind of move this around, get the swirls going on our canvas. So we're just kind of deciding the placement. So we're going to let a lot of these swirls go off the canvas as well. Now the reason we use our Sharpie marker, again, is we're going to have to probably go over some of those lines there, and we didn't want to lose where those lines were. So to keep the swirls moving in the right direction, you may find that you have to kind of keep your strokes continuous as you pass through the outline of your turtle. Now, if you go into your turtle, that's okay, because we're going to come in there with that beautiful olive green with some white combination, and it's going to cover it up with no problem at all. So don't worry about that. So let's go through and let's choose a couple more spots. If you think about it, we're kind of making these huge swirls and then deciding where to place them. We kind of use our brush to kind of slightly outline them, but we're really kind of focusing majority of the paint outside of that little turtle. So I'm just kind of getting the placement of the first swirls. Now I do kind of go over with my paintbrush and try and keep the direction of the swirls going in the same direction. So I'm not kind of swishing and kind of filling it in. I'm keeping the swirls going in the same direction. So let's kind of say, all right, I'm going to have another big swirl maybe down here at the bottom. You noticed I grabbed a little bit of white and added that in there. You can do that at this point, but you don't have to. Again, if we kind of continue that swirl, it would be a really big one. So let's go ahead and kind of just make that swirl as big as we'd like. We're going to have lots of these swirls heading right into each other, so no biggie. And you'll notice when you do go over that Sharpie marker, you're still able to see it right through, so no problem. You won't lose it. So just kind of keep moving. Now, this is kind of, at this point, what I'm kind of referring to is a little bit of speed painting. So we want to get our main swirls placed out here initially quickly because we're going to go back in, grab some of that white, and go right back on top of it. We love that nice swirly effect. Kind of gives you the idea of its different puddles in the water, different little dimensions of the water underneath. And you get that when you are applying two different colors and they're both still wet. So you need to do that quickly because this is acrylic paint and it dries very quickly. So I'm going back in, add my white right on top. Then I'm coming over here and doing the same thing. Going back in, adding my white right on top. Now if you add too much white, you need to kind of make it a little bit darker. You've got some more blue. Go right back on top and add some of that blue. Now as you are using this white and blue, you're going to find that at some point it does start covering those lines pretty good. So some of those lines you may have to really kind of squint and see, and hey, where was that line? Because there will come a point where we need to start filling in that turtle. And we'll have to kind of figure out where is the outline of the turtle. So just go ahead, keep doing that. And I'm going to go down and kind of do the same thing down here. And continue on. Again, try and keep your strokes going in the same motion as the shape of the circle. So if you have the circle, it's exactly that, it's a circle. Keep the white strokes going in the shape of a circle. All right, so I think I've got some nice colors out there for that cobalt blue. Let's go ahead and wash that off. And then, you know what, I think I'm gonna go into a little bit of the phthalo blue. So let's do the same thing. It's got a really beautiful deep tint. So I'm gonna start off with a little blue and white right away. I've mixed a little bit of that right on my palette. And I'm going to come in and start my swirls. Now the idea here is to make sure that all of these swirls look like they're running into each other. So it's a big ocean out there and that turtle's kind of swimming along and all of these swirls are right on top of each other. So you, as the artist, kind of need to decide which ones are on top of which ones. So if this one is going to end right there, then maybe this particular little circle is going to be underneath the first one we did. Again, kind of coming on top of that with that nice pretty white. Gives you a nice swirly feel. Let's grab some more and let's move up here on top. Let's pretend there's a big swirl maybe right there. Now the key here is we do want to try and come as close to that turtle and fill in those spots. We'll get an opportunity to fill in any white space later on. We want to try and minimize any of that white space. So let's go ahead and get as much of those swirls covering the background. And again, if you feel you need to make that full stroke to kind of get the right size of your swirl, go right ahead. No problem. Just try and make it as light as possible when you're going inside your turtle, because everything that you go inside that turtle, you're going to have to go ahead and cover up. So let's make it as light as possible. because we're going to have to do some covering. Kind of coming in there. So this is kind of a nice practice in swirling and combining. All right, so I'm going to grab another spot on this nice cool little background. Let's grab some right down here. And let's add a cool swirl. Now you can make these swirls as big as you want. You can add as many or as few as you like. So if you feel like you need to make them small, then you know what, you're going to have more on here. If you want them bigger, pretty cool. You're going to have less. So I have decided this swirl is going to go on top of my first swirl. And I'll come in with some of that nice white. And just kind of let that sit. All right, now I think I'm going to do one last tiny little swirl right over here. And we're going to kind of fill this one in. We're going to put this one in nice and tight up right underneath that turtle. And you know what, maybe let's put it right on top. We'll put this one on top too. It's probably easy to decide as you're adding the swirls to put them on top of whatever swirl you started with at the beginning. It's a lot easier to add on top of than it is to kind of paint up close to and make it kind of fit. So, very cool. All right. So next, let's go ahead and wash off this brush. We've got one last color. We're going to move into our turquoise, and we're going to do the same process. And basically, we're just going to fill in. We've got some white spaces right there, so let's go ahead and fill in with some of that white and turquoise. Same process. And let's decide, all right, we're going to go in on top here. And again, remember I said, let's put it on top of whatever is there already. So let's pretend that this is going to go on top of whatever swirl I had there first. And again, don't forget that these are wraparound canvases. So as you're approaching the edge of these canvases, it's kind of nice to go ahead and extend your paint around the edges, because then that gives you the option of when you are hanging these beautiful paintings on your wall, if you don't have a frame, it kind of gives it a nice complete edge, so you can stick that up on the wall. All right. Now, this turquoise is really your last opportunity to kind of make sure you're getting these as close to the edge of your turtle as possible. So, I'm going to come in and add another one right here. And maybe we're even going to make this a little bit bigger. So, let's kind of make it big enough so it kind of makes sense that it takes over the bottom corner. But you can see, we still see our little hand coming through, so that's cool. Alrighty. And then, what have we got here? We got a little bit of white space over there, so let's go in and let's put another swirl here. Kind of finish that up. And then we've got a last piece of white space kind of in here, so let's take our swirl and take it that way. Let that swirl kind of come up this way. All right. So now at this point, take a look at your painting. This is an opportunity to kind of step back and go, okay, what am I missing? What do I need to work on? So I think up here, we've got a couple of swirls we probably need to tweak. So if we kind of go back in, wash off your paintbrush, and let's go back over to that cobalt blue and kind of say, all right, let's tighten that up just a little bit right there. Bring that down, make sure we've got a nice complete swirl. And it now makes sense, and it's covering any of the white space. And then if you got any little dimpling come through, very important, make sure you've got some good coverage. Alrighty. So I think we're pretty much ready for our next steps. Now for anybody following along at home, again, this is a good time, go through, play with your swirls, have fun with it, tweak them the way you like, make some stronger, make some lighter, get them to the nice shape and size that you like. Now what we're going to do right now is we're going to work on the inside of our turtle. Let's go ahead and wash off that paintbrush. We're going to use that same paintbrush. Wash it off, let's dab it off. And the inside of our turtle is a really cool olive green. So let's go ahead, grab some of that olive green, and let's start kind of outlining him. Now this is where you're going to have to kind of squint and kind of hopefully make sure that we've got some good coverage, or rather not so good coverage, so you can kind of see where the edge of your little turtle is. And there may be a few points where you can't see, but you can kind of figure out where he's at. Now before we go too far into the body, what I'd like everybody to do is make a big circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to come around here and we're going to follow the outline of his body and we're going to make a big circle. And this is going to help us keep our green on the outside and our brown on the inside where the shell is. So let's continue on filling in his head. At this point, let's go ahead and add a little bit of white, because what this is going to do, this is going to really help very nicely mix in and make it a much more solid color. Now when we're dealing with solid colors with acrylic paint, you're going to find that it really doesn't cover the canvas very well. Adding white as a mixture is a wonderful way to really add, take an opaque color and make it very solid, and you get good coverage. And especially when we've got a lot of those blues kind of peeking through, we want to make sure we're covering them. So that's why we're really introducing that white. That's kind of giving us the nice ability to hide any and all that blue that we had underneath. So there, we got that, the head color. Now we're going to do the exact same thing down here. We're just going to take down our green and white. I'm mixing my green and white together. And I'm going to take it down the side and finish up the outline of this turtle's cool little arm. Now if you are continuing to paint right now and you're underneath, your blues are still wet and you're activating some paint, that is your trigger to say, you know what, I need to take a break. So go ahead, let the paint dry underneath, usually about 5-10 minutes is all it takes, and then come back and you can continue on your second layer. So you will find with acrylic paints that we really do paint in layers, and it takes layers to achieve a nice brilliant color or a deep color. So we do that by starting with layer 1, sometimes having to let that dry, then come back and finish with layer 2. There we go. Now I'm not getting too much activation of the blue underneath, but I didn't go heavy. So the level of paint that I have on my canvas is fairly consistent. So you at home, it just depends on how much paint that you have placed onto your canvas. So we're going to continue down here, and we're going to finish up our little foot. Again, adding in a little bit of white. Very nice for coverage. And then the same thing down here. Now I'm noticing that my foot down here is a little less visible, but I kind of have an idea where it's at, and it's kind of shaped the same way. So there could be a couple portions of this little guy where you're going to have to say, alrighty, what did he look like? I think I remember what he looked like, and I'm going to finish him up. All right, and then last but not least, this little guy's got a tail. Let's go ahead and bring down that tail. Just kind of an easy triangle tail. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of going back over each part of the little hands, the tail, and I'm making my strokes a little bit more consistent. My first strokes were just placing paint on the canvas. My last strokes are fixing any directions on each part of the arms. So if I don't like the directions, I'm kind of going over it while it's still wet. And you can only do that while it's still wet. So making sure I kind of come in and fix anything. Now up here at his face, I'm going to add a little bit more white just right here, right around his muzzle, because we're just going to add a little bit of highlight here. And again, we can do that right now because everything is still nice and wet. So let's go ahead, wash off this paintbrush. Now at this point, this would probably be a good point for you guys, again, at home, to go ahead and take a break if you need to let this dry. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a painting that I had started in advance so we can kind of continue on, so we don't get kind of slowed down here today. But normally, again, about 5 to 7 minutes is just about all you need, and then you can kind of continue on painting. Now, as you can see, I did a much better job on my first painting, really connecting all those little swirlies here. This one, I should have done a much better job doing that, so we kind of talked to that on the first time around. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and move over into that smaller round brush. Go ahead and dab that in water. And let's grab our brown. Now I'm calling it burnt umber because that is the official name of it, but it's brown. It looks like brown. And we're going to dab that between the white and the brown. And we're going to make that circle again. So we're kind of making the outline of the shell. And we're just following the outline of the shell, taking it all the way around. There you go. So now at this point, if you want to mix up a little bit more of that white and that burnt umber, let's come in and let's just make some nice swirls. Because what I'd like to do, our goal here is to fill in this cool little shell, but we ultimately want the center of it to be lighter as opposed to the outside. So we're adding a little bit more white as we are filling in the center. And we just keep taking our brush, and I'm pushing on the side of my brush, and I'm taking it round and round. So I'm kind of working from the outside, working my way in, adding a little bit more white, creating a little bit more coverage. And if you're not getting coverage, add more white. That really is the secret. It kind of sounds counterintuitive, like white. You would add white to actually, you think white, you would see through white, but white is, when you use it in combination with another color, it is a wonderful medium to create good coverage. All right. So I'm thinking we're looking pretty good here. Got some nice swirls coming down in the center. Let's go back through grab just that burnt umber by itself, and we're going to do a last swirl all the way around, just kind of emphasizing the edge, making it just a hair bit darker than what we've made the center of that cool little turtle. Alrighty. Very nice. All right, so we're going to let that center of that turtle dry. Now we're going to move over to the face, and we're going to work on a little bit of the face. But before we do that, let's do a quick outline. We're just going to use the same brush. If you've got a lot of paint on your brush, go ahead, wipe it off a little bit, and we're going to use the edge of that brush. Here's another tip. If your canvas is nice and dry, as it probably should be now, you will have some difficulty getting your paintbrush to move all the way around very fluidly. So go ahead, grab a little dab of water, add it to your paper plate here. Don't take it directly here because you don't want drips coming down your canvas. So just a little bit, because what we're looking for is to make your water just a little bit more watered down and fluid. And then what you can do, you'll notice it will move much more easier around the outline. Now we want this to be more of the burnt umber. So let's go ahead and just take that all the way down. Again, if you need to add some more water, go ahead and do so. This will help you get some nice continuous fluid movement. Now, if you feel that the side of this brush is a little too thick for you, and you don't want such a thick outline, go ahead and just move over to the thin brush. But keep in mind that thin brush is very deceiving. If you push very hard, you're going to get a very thick line. If you push very lightly, you will get a thinner line. So this is something that you need to practice with your brushes and understand what you can achieve. Just going to finish up the outline here. Alrighty. So there we go. All right, so kind of getting towards the end of this painting now. What we're going to do now is go ahead, sit this brush into our water. We are going to move over to our tiny brush. Let's go ahead, dab that in water. And we're going to grab probably our black. And, oh, you know what, before we do, let's do this. I almost forgot. Let's finish up that one outline. It's going to bring its little face in just a little bit more. We're going to bring that face in a little bit closer. It's kind of like his nose, you know, his nose is kind of cute. There we go. All right. And then what I'm going to do is instead I'm going to grab that black and I'm going to go ahead and work on his eyes. So he's got two cute little eyes. And I'm going to let those eyes just kind of run right into his nose. There you go. And then as well, you have to kind of bring in his little smile because he did have a really cute little smile. So let's take his smile up from here. Give him a little bit of a little cute there. Now I'm going to grab just a dab of white right on top. I'm going to do some highlights here. Just a little bit, just to kind of emphasize. Hey, he's kind of cute. There you go. Kind of emphasize his smile. And then as well, let's give him a nose. How about that? We'll give him a couple little nostrils. Kind of cute. So I think for his head, we're probably okay. Let's kind of add a few little embellishments here. He's a turtle. He's kind of a cool turtle. And just kind of emphasize it. Hey, he's got some stuff going on here. Now at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to wait till the center of your shell is dry. Then we're going to move in and make some nice little decorations inside that shell. So this one is not quite dry, but for time's sake, we're going to go ahead and go for it. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this phthalo blue. You can really grab any color you like. Any one of these blues would be just as beautiful. And let's just do a nice swirl. We're going to introduce some color, and that's really what we're trying to do. And we're going to do some cool swirls. This is a real loose line. And I like doing loose lines because people don't freak out if they don't exactly tie, if they're not perfect. And that's what it's intended to be, is a very loose line, not exact. All right, so now inside the turtle, we're going to do a little bit of some square cool embellishments. So we're going to start with maybe the inside, and we'll kind of work our way out. So we'll do this one kind of like so, and let it grow. Again, if you're having a hard time with this showing through, use the side of your paintbrush. And then make a few more. Go over it with white if you're finding that you can't see it. If it's too white, go ahead, add some more color. This is truly as much fun and color as you want it to have. Now, if you want to make them circular, knock yourself out. If you want to make them pinks or purples or greens, you know, this is what the fun of this. So this is a really lighthearted, fun introductory painting to doing a turtle. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned some things and had a good time today. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about painting this type of painting, send us an email to info@picassosgrapevine.com. Thank you for joining us.